All right, so what did you do?
Well, then she needed to call me back, and it went from her enthusiasm about seeing me to let's just meet at yoga tonight, go in separate cars. So there was a real shift in about 30 minutes.
Did you go to yoga?
We did. We went to yoga.
All right, and after yoga, was there a discussion about your relationship and the status of your relationship?
Yeah, a very brief one. I mean, yoga's not a great place to talk, obviously. So while we were sitting there, she seemed very cold, and I kind of got the feeling that it was over, that this was it. So as we walked to the car, I tried to talk to her about the relationship, and that didn't go well. And so I just kind of put up my hands and walked away, feeling sad that this was it.
All right, and as you walked away, was that the end, or was there more conversation after you began to walk away?
No, she called out to me, and I walked back towards her, and she was deeply curious. Well, let me back up slightly. During that conversation, she didn't have any interest in spending any time with me for the rest of the week, so it kind of confirmed, this is over. Mm-hmm. But then when she called me back, she had a series of detailed questions about what I would be doing on Friday.
And Friday is going to be July 18th, right?
Yes.
And that's the date of the homicide?
That's exactly right.
What were her inquiries of you regarding that date?
I had a trip planned to Tennessee. She was aware that I was planning to leave about 11 a.m. On Friday. I need to get to Atlanta for an early dinner, so with traffic, she knew I was departing at 11. And at the yoga studio in the parking lot, she had asked if I was still going, if I didn't go, why not, what route I would be taking a lot of bizarre amount of interest in that trip that didn't make sense to me at the time, given that she didn't want to spend time with me.
And how does it make sense to you now?
Well, if I had left on my trip at the scheduled time that she had known about for quite a while, I would have driven pretty close to Danny Markel's house about the same time as at the murder, in a similar looking car to the suspect vehicle.
What type of vehicle did you drive?
I drove a 2004 Nissan Sentra that was silver metallic gray color.
So if you had followed your original plans, you would have been passing by the Markel residence or nearby there around the same time as the killers were fleeing?
Yeah, I would have been at Capitol Circle in Thomasville. I'm sure I would have been on the same cell tower, for example. I think my life could have been pretty complicated had I taken my original plans.
All right, so you didn't, I guess, take the original plans.
No, I did not. I had made a last-minute decision the night before to leave Thursday night instead. I had not informed Miss Adelson about that because we weren't speaking. Actually, no, I don't know that anyone, for sure that anyone in Tallahassee knew I had changed my plans, just the people at the other end.
All right, so you were actually in Tennessee at the time of the homicide.
I was.
And when we've heard you were called in as a potential suspect, and apparently named by a Jane McPherson. Do you know who that is?
I do.
Okay, who is that?
That was a friend of Wendi Adelson's, and she was a doctoral student in our program. I had not much of a relationship with her, just a kind of a working relationship. We'd worked on a couple of projects together, but I didn't know her very well at all. But
someone that knew that you had been dating Wendi.
Yeah, I think she was a confidant of Wendi Adelson's, yes, for sure.
Okay. So you get called in, and were you able to provide documentation to show that you were in Tennessee and not in Tallahassee?
Yeah, I was excluded fairly quickly because the investigators found Kmart surveillance footage of me at a Kmart in Tennessee using my credit card with my cell phone showing me there shortly after the murder, so it was impossible that I was the shooter.
All right, and then was there also some similar type coincidences around the time of the trip that the killers made in June?
Yes. On June 6th, I had a business trip to Gainesville, and I departed at 11 a.m. on a Friday, June 6th, which Miss Adelson would have known about by March. So really, I take 2 trips out of Tallahassee in my car the whole spring and summer semester. And both times, hitmen try to kill Danny Markel.
Do you remember back in July 2014 approximately how many like Toyota Priuses you had?
Approximately 10.
Remember how many of them were greenish or silver?
2.
Did your company rent one of those Toyota Priuses to a Luis Rivera back in July of 2014?
Yes.
And is there a contract that documents that rental agreement between your company and Mr. Rivera?
Yes.
I also want to ask you about this word brother with a phone number next to it at the top of the agreement. Do you recognize that handwriting?
Yes.
How do you recognize it?
That's my handwriting.
Okay, and did you fill out this contract?
No.
You wrote the one indication, the 786-372-5986 number?
Yes.
Do you recall why you wrote that on the agreement?
Yeah, as the owner of the company, I try to get any contact information for anyone that's renting the car, or maybe anyone that might be with the person renting the car, so that I have contact info.
So you have an alternative way to get in touch with the renter?
Yes.
Do you have independent recollection of why you wrote brother on this one?
No.
Okay. But it could have been someone with the person renting the vehicle, such as Luis Rivera?
Yes, most likely.
Do you know the defendant in this case, Sigfredo Garcia?
I've met him before.
And that's through him renting vehicles at your company?
I don't recall if Sigfredo ever rented a vehicle, but just being there and a gentleman that used to work for me, they were friendly.
They may be hanging out near the business.
Yes.
At some point, do you still own that Prius?
No.
What did you do with it?
I sold it.
To whom?
I don't recall who I sold it to.
Do you recall about when you sold it?
No.